that. So if you do want to participate, you're going to want to take your mute button off. But I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Business Development Commission on January 11th at 6:34 p.m. And before we get started, I would like to now formally welcome our guests. We've got, if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves to the group.
Sure.
We're not going to transition to that, but I just wanted to acknowledge you first.
I'm Michael Jonabro. I'm here for the martial arts portion.
Okay, cool.
Alana and Robert Zuppel for tumbling.
Excellent. And then we've got another guest.
David White, I'm just watching.
He's just watching. You heard how thrilling and exciting our meetings can be. You wanted to be a part of this.
Amazing.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, welcome. We're always glad to have visitors. Most of the time it's just us, so it's nice to have some company.
Yeah.
All right. Seeing as do you guys have any comments you want to make before the meeting? We always make an opportunity for the public to give comment if they want. Okay.
Thank you for that.
All right. Normally I skip right by that portion.
No worries.
Yeah.
Next time you skip by.
Yeah. So at this time, if the fellow commissioners could address the meeting minutes, please review them and bring out any mistakes, clarifications, or omissions. Bring that to our attention, please. We had a full board last night. Yeah, look at that.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes on December 14th of last year.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from December 14th, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye as well. The ayes have it, so the motion passes. Okay, so the exciting part of our meeting. So this is where we'd like to hear from your guys' group. So I want you to just, this is our first time doing this. So we're as excited and nervous, I think, as you guys are. No pressure. So if we seem clumsy or whatever, this is our first go around, but we're excited for the opportunity. It's something we've wanted to do for a long time. To give a little bit of background on the Business Development Commission, we've been a group that's been together, I think coming up on 6 years now.
Yeah.
After the election of May 2017, when it was formed. We have participated in a lot of projects here in Hampshire, mainly the downtown project. It really was a project we were heavily involved with. We've also in the process of doing an economic development strategy. Facade improvement. Yeah, the facade program was really a program. We were the ones who originally started the work on the website back a very long time ago. It was part of what came out of it. So our focus is really on business. And one of the areas that we've long been interested in as part of our mission is to support entrepreneurs. We have a firm belief that having homegrown businesses is has a high amount of benefit to our citizens and to our community. And we could never really quite figure out how to sort of get involved in that process. And so when Jay, I think Dave during the last meeting had talked about some of the things that we wanted to do going forward is maybe having sort of a Shark Tank style, without the millions of dollars, of course. We're working on that piece. We're having a bake sale next week. But just sort of that kind of style where you guys get up and, kind of tell us what you guys are, what your plans are, what you're thinking of, and then we can then sort of learn from you guys as to, why now are you guys going? What are the things that sort of triggered you to make you sort of start to pursue this path? And then be available for any questions that you might have. And if we have any thoughts or ideas, willingly sharing them. Just, take it all with a grain of salt. We're just humans, just like everybody else. So that's kind of what we have in mind. So to kind of give you an idea, I don't know if Jay kind of laid out any groundwork.
No, it's sort of informal, so no, this is great though.
Cool.
And that's exactly what we're looking for. Like you said, my wife and I at least are in infant stages and yeah.
Okay.
So I appreciate it. This is great.
Cool.
We're like, Michael here, we're just friends from the community. Kids played together on soccer. I coached with his wife for 5-year-old soccer last spring, so.
Okay. You guys win a championship, and that's really good.
Oh. I don't think we scored a goal. I don't know if we scored a goal.
I've coached teams like that, trust
They
me.
tried really.
Yeah, and friendships with the kids and the
Yeah.
parents, and yeah, we love this place and
Cool.
that's cool. The reason we're here today.
Cool. So, I mean, I don't know which of you guys wants to go first, or Josh,
You're on the agenda first.
Yeah.
On the agenda first.
Yeah, so feel free to come to the lectern. I think would probably be the easiest, or if you want to pull a chair up, you can put a log on the fire.
Put my stuff
Just
there.
informal or formal, it doesn't matter.
Sure, okay. Hi, I'm Michael Jonabro, and I'm here for the martial arts stuff. And Jay recommended I bring like pieces of paper in with just some notes for you guys.
Yeah, that's great.
So he said just like what sort of square footage I'm looking for, how many students, kind of thing, and I have an idea. I'm not so worried about it, but I feel like I'm kind of walking in the dark. So like I'm just thankful to be here and have this opportunity.
That's great. Well, glad you're here.
I'm very happy to be a guinea pig in this start of this informalness. You guys,
Yeah, sure.
You know,
We're gonna be a customer. Of course.
okay, so I've been living here for a little over 2 years now, and I have no desire to leave ever. Yeah, my wife and I we've been all over the place, San Diego, Wisconsin, other places, and my goal was always to be somewhere before my daughter was 5 years old and stay there. And we've accomplished that. And so we got to know the community a little bit, like bobbing a lot, like it's shrinking, like just getting to know everybody, putting names to faces and everything. And so I am currently a freelance copy editor proofreader. And so I work from home. I've taken advantage of the Hampshire app. So I'm on there. And other than that, I'm a stay-at-home dad, which takes up a majority of my time. And so my son will be going to school, hopefully by fall. But, as a copy editor, proofreader, freelance, doing that freelance gig, there's not always income coming in. I need to start thinking about something else. And so my grandmaster, which is a common term in the industry, in case that sounds odd right now, he's been poking me for several years now to open my own school. And so it's in my head now, I'm like, maybe I should do that here in Hampshire. There's no martial arts schools here. And so why can't I do that? And so right now, it would be like a sister school to Lee's Martial Arts, but I'd be the owner of it. It's still kind of on the table, whether it be Lee's Martial Arts or it could be my own thing, Jonah Bros Punch Academy or something,
Not corporate, right?
Not Cobra Kai.
Daniel Stewart.
Yeah.
But like, I've been thinking about how I would go about this, with marketing, pulling students in, and maintaining the place, keeping it sustainable, having it go, and being a positive influence on the community.
Sure.
One of my biggest drives in just letting this idea, allowing it to have the opportunity to go up to fruition was I wanted a community engagement. Like I want to be engaged with the community somehow, and what better way to do it than have a martial arts studio where we can be involved in all the things, parades, trunk or treat,
Yeah.
and even like interbusiness endeavors. Be awesome. So I know it'd be great for a lot of people, my kids, maybe troubled kids, any adults that want to stay fit or work on their fitness, whatever it is. This could be that opportunity for these people. And so I'm playing with the idea. I've got a lot of notes all over the place. I've been talking to Jay. I talked to Tatiana recently, if you're familiar with her. She's opening a gaming cafe. She sounds pretty
okay.
open. She sounds relatively open to the idea. Right now, we're contemplating a soundproof wall. Because there's gonna be a lot of involved.
Do you have the location already identified?
Right now, potentially is her location across the street at 129. Potentially. Otherwise, I don't have anything in stone.
Sure.
And so like, my thing is I'm gonna go through this when I have something in stone, right?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of places off 72 that could be available. I still have them, in my mind. But yeah, no, right now I'm here in front of you guys with like a sense of humility, because I don't know exactly what I'm doing.
Sure.
But I have an open mind and I'm all ears on how to make this work. I've got resources and people that are there willing to help me, including my grandmaster. And so, if you guys have any questions, go.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what prompted you to reach out to Jay?
I was walking to the library with my son and I was like, hey, the village hall is right here. So I walked in and I talked to Laura.
Linda?
Darn it. Linda, I talked to Linda, I'm like, I think I want to open a martial arts studio. Who do I gotta talk to do that? And she looked at all the cards on the board and she's like, talk to this guy. I was like, okay, so I reached out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
great.
fantastic.
That's great.
So we started the conversation that way.
We have wanted this for so long in terms of people with ideas coming forth and saying, I don't know where to start, but I got this idea and how do I achieve it? I will say, we did a survey probably 2 years ago now, 3 years, where we asked residents, like, what's the biggest thing you want within Hampshire? And one of the fundamental things that residents want is somewhere kids can go and, have activities. And so, of course, everybody immediately goes to bowling alleys. And it's like, all right, well, let's in the scope of what we actually can achieve here. And I think one of the things that these ideas that come to mind are almost every kid I know is in some kind of form of recreational activity to some extent. The great thing is like the infrastructure outside of the building, there really is not much more there that you need, right? Like you don't have to, all of a sudden you don't need a bunch of equipment, I'm assuming, outside of just.
Not too
Not too much. You're right.
like a bob,
Yeah, sure. But it sounds like there's a lot of properties within the village that can accommodate that, which is positive. But yeah, I guess the question for me is what makes you nervous about, like, what's the number one thing that makes you nervous before jumping in?
Immediately at the top of my head, it's, I guess, stage fright in that sort of respect. I have instructed hundreds of classes in front of people, and every single time before doing it, I'm always a little bit of like Sunday scaries in a way, some form of that. But I know after that, I'm always very happy with myself. And everybody usually, how bad is that? Walks away content. They've done something in a day, tired, sweaty, they go home feeling good about themselves. And I can feel good about that. And so it's really just like the exposure, but that's okay. Face everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do that now that I'm here.
So do you think, and I guess out of curiosity is from a space standpoint, have you explored spaces where, like group spaces? Not saying that getting your own space isn't a good thing, but as a way of, for me, whenever I talk to young people who are starting businesses, people who just start businesses, is startup costs. The location sometimes can be a pretty high bar to get through. Have you thought about, because we used to have martial arts through the Park District at one point, and my neighbor used to teach it.
Okay.
This was years ago, and then they left town, and I don't think had anything. But again, a way of getting your business started before having to it doesn't, you don't have to, just have you thought about that as a lower cost to entry and a reduced amount of fixed overhead costs that, you have to have a certain amount of revenue coming in to make sure you match those costs. Is that something that you've thought about, just out of curiosity?
I thought about how to do stuff outside of like a location.
Yeah.
And so like, there's the park district is an option, and so are the schools.
Yeah, schools.
And so there's like, Queens Martial Arts, where I grew up doing everything in Carrick and now Crystal Lake as well. They have like 6 to 8 week modules where kids would sign, they'd hear about it and they'd sign up. And then they'd come in and they'd learn about martial arts, on a very basic level. And, if they're interested enough, they would join the school. Otherwise, wait until it happens again, do it again, and they come when they want to do it again. Kind of like, soccer, a season of soccer, it'd be short season of martial arts through the school or the park district. And I know the park district is interested in such a thing.
Okay.
I talked to them briefly last year about it. So I know those things are available. But like group space, like trading space, maybe. Yeah, I think that'd be something good to think about to the beginning stages of everything.
Yeah,
Just before you build your customer base, because any new business, the beginning of it, is acquiring that customer base is part of the challenge.
Right.
And it's nice to have lower fixed costs during that period. It's something to think about. So I was just one of the things that, and then with the eye eventually of maybe doing space, or if you've got the capital and you want it your own space, and some people, I mean, certainly, doing that. Just something I was curious if you thought.
I've got all sorts of marketing and advertising things in my head, and I know like doing this with my grandmaster as like a sister school.
Sure.
He's already got like rapport, and I've seen him grow over the years since I was 7. So like,
that mentor is invaluable.
yes,
Yeah.
extremely. And I've been talking to him a lot about how to go about this. He's got a lot of insight.
I think the park district idea is definitely one I would recommend pursuing and considering, because when starting a business, that the run that you need to, not just the initial startup cost, but the run that you have to have as you build your clientele can add to some of the complexities. And it may be something to consider to utilize the park district and their already captured network, being in their publications, on their website for signups, to build that initial customer base.
Yeah, sure.
Get your name out there, and then move into your own space so that it's a natural progression that they would follow or go into the business that you're starting to minimize that run that you would have to be able to finance as you're building your client base.
Sure.
The question I have for you is when you're having conversations with your grandmaster and you're talking about the business and starting your own school, right? It sounds like you have all of the talent of teaching the class, your charisma, the way that you're presenting in front of us. I think that you're going to be successful on that side of it.
Thank you.
From the business aspect, what conversations have you talked with your mentor about on what it takes to run the business side of a martial arts school? And then of that, have you thought about, okay, this is how I may do it a little differently, and here are things that excite me about that?
Right. So there are different things. There are things I've thought about that I want to do differently, that I've learned about the industry. But as like a entrepreneur, business hats, it's not necessarily my Tao or my arete, but we all, through our lifetimes, we got to put on that hat eventually. He says, Michael, you need to be a black belt in business. Right? He's like, right now you're a yellow belt. I'm like, sir, okay, learn it. And so like, he talks about, like how to, keep people. I've seen what he does to keep people, how he, talks behind closed doors with different customers. And I thought a lot about it. I don't know what right now, nothing's popping into my head.
No, that's okay. It's just, I think the other side to consider is the business side of it, the
Right.
accounting, the insurance, the you said you've got marketing and advertising ideas that you're kind of,
I've seen them do a lot.
I'm guessing back in napkin ideas of, okay, this could be a cool approach, and what do I do on social, and how do I build a name and a brand? It's just that is almost just as important as having people excited to come see you and teach the class, right?
Right.
So just something to keep in mind, that I think sometimes we take a passion to a business and then we realize, oh, crap, there's a lot to the business side of it. I also would say, don't expect to know it all. Find those mentors or those people that are willing to help,
100%.
and just surround yourself with great people that are there to help you out. And that'll be a key, right? That'll help you be successful.
Right.
It's a really good point. So I've hired a handful of freelancers that went into corporate world. And number one question is, why corporate now? And it always comes down to, I hate doing the accounting. I hate doing it. Like, I'm passionate about this, but the business side is not my forte. Like, you know, the taxes, the following up with people, past due bills, like, I just don't like, I just want to do this, right? And so that business side is one thing that no one ever really thinks about, but fortunately is the underbelly and foundation of your business. And I think that having mentors and having people reach out and help guide you, because again, I assume you're not going to need to know it day one, but you're going to need to know it if you go at a scale on your own. And I think that I'm a big fan of the show Restaurant Impossible. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but if you ever catch an episode, 9 times out of 10, there's always a common thread, and it's they don't understand the business side. They love cooking. They can make anything that you want them to make, but it always comes down to they don't know how to price dishes. They don't know how to, right in the business side. And so I think what Rusty Kelly brought up, I think, is very valuable in terms of like understand that.
And I think you'll find plenty of people in the community that have that expertise. That
Yeah.
are like, I'd love to help you out,
100%.
right? Let me just
The chamber.
coach you and help
Right.
you. Yeah, the chamber, being a member of that and talking to other businesses.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not talking about hiring people to come in and do it. I think there would be community members that would just raise their hand and say, I'd love to help you learn.
100%.
Yeah.
And then when you get to a point where you're like, I love the writing and the marketing and the teaching, I hate finance, I'm gonna hire an accountant that can take care of that. Or you may say, I love numbers, I don't like writing, so I'm gonna hire a freelance marketer to help out with something, right?
Yeah.
You kind of get into your groove of what fits for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chamber's a great resource, but I would bet there's a lot of people in the community that'd be like, I'd love to sit down with you and help you out.
Okay.
Yeah, the chamber, I think, is a great resource for sure.
When would you get involved with the chamber? Like after you established yourself?
Once you have a formal business.
Yeah, once you have a business, so a lot of the businesses in the chamber are not brick and mortar stores. They're network-based sales companies. I mean, they have the brick and mortar as well, but you don't have to wait till you have a space, or the minute you incorporate in any way, you can reach out to the
Just an
chamber.
annual due, right?
And then there's a fee to join, but some of the value that they offer is they'll have other business people come in and do presentations on, taxation, on accounting programs, on different types of things. I think they try to hold an event once a month or once every 2 months where, I don't know, with COVID, I know she backed away from those, but it's just other people in business who have the same, and a lot of business tend to be, not, massive corporations. They're usually sort of local companies that are just here that are, kind of confronted with some of the similar issues that anybody who's in business, is going to be up against. So, and they're super friendly. I mean, the former mayor's wife is Liz Magnuson is a member. Jeannie Mayer, who's the director, is a marvelous human. Then we've got some people from the bank that are involved, and all really geared around just helping new business owners.
It's awesome.
And there's no
together.
fee for it. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Chairman Project Liz has got her hand raised.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Liz, go ahead. Thank you.
Oh, hey. Hey, yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think it's a service that you're gonna provide that we need. So I don't think you're gonna have a problem with that. But I would suggest maybe even reaching out to not only the Hampshire Park District, but also the township. Maybe you could do like, speak to Jody, maybe she could have the seniors at the township building. You could do a low impact or like a Tai Chi for the seniors one day. And then also like the schools, all the grammar schools have the aftercare.
Okay. Aftercare.
That's very good point, actually.
I didn't think of that. Thank you.
Mike, see, Mike tried. It's how you beat me to it.
Great idea.
That's a good.
I think too, while we would love to say Hampshire has, your customer base in here, don't forget you've got organizations and opportunity with Pingree residents.
That's
It's a
right.
big
Yep.
community. Genoa, not far away.
Oh, hey, welcome back, Liz. We
Yeah,
saw you.
sorry, I don't know what happened. No, that's okay, but I know like did you hear about Young Rembrandts? They do that at the aftercare. They come in and do classes.
My daughter has done that, and it's awesome.
Young
But
boy.
so you could totally get a base following that way. And then have you also, what about the Park District is gonna build that rec center? They're having that meeting tonight.
That's right now.
Yeah, so would you, I mean, I'm sure they'd have space for you in their facility to lead groups, and that way you wouldn't have to get your own space, or do you want your own thing?
Ideally, I would like my own thing, but like to get there, there's certain obstacles to cross. I understand that. And these are all great ideas in reaching that goal.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
hit on 2 or 3 of those things, establish a customer base, and all of a sudden you're like, they'll just follow wherever I go, then
Right.
that's the next step.
Then it's easy to, because then you have a set of customers you can count on that provide revenue that will make signing that lease an easier thing to do.
Sure.
There is one group that is, I hate to say it, but it's true, very underserved in this community that could be a good customer base for you, and that's that tween and teen group. There's not a lot of programs in
No.
the Hampshire area for that age group, right? There's a lot for the younger kids until you get to about middle school, early middle school, and then there's a lot for seniors.
That'd be
But
awesome.
that teen tween group, there's not a lot out there.
Outside of high school program.
High school,
Yeah, high school.
programs, but that's if they sign up for like a high school sports or band or theater. or
Beyond
arts.
that, there's nothing else.
My sister used to run a mobile karate school, so you want to talk to me afterwards. They got client bases from basically schools and groups and stuff. And then eventually they were able to open individual locations where they rented space, so
Okay.
she doesn't do that anymore, but she used to work with this guy. For a long time, so.
That's great.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. Awesome. That's good stuff. I guess my biggest scary thing now, is like when I finally have like this client base, a herd of people behind me, ready to go to this location with me. It sounds like a rocky road. Like, y'all gonna come with me, and
I will tell you, a good friend of mine, I worked with them for a long time. And one day he was like, I'm done. I'm like, what do you mean you're done? And all of a sudden, he had on the side been building a brewery on his own, like, had no idea. And it scaled to the point where he's like, it's either one or the other. And that's when the jump occurred. Now he's, USA Today ranked them as one of the top 10 small brewers in the country. But you just gotta reach that mass, and I think these ideas tonight are fantastic ways for you to, you don't gotta jump in with both feet. You can do your side hustle with this until it reaches the point where you're like, okay, I'm ready.
okay.
And we're available. So
Yeah.
if at any point you want to come back in front of us as a group, or, our contact information is on the website, or before we go, we can get that for you. But any questions you have, any, concerns, any, any assistance that you might need, our emails are available, and reach out to us, and we'd love to help you and be a part of your success. That would be real exciting for us. So,
I appreciate that.
yeah, it's great.
It's awesome.
Do you have any other questions before?
I don't know. I guess I'm curious about how to find people to help invest in me. I don't know if this is an appropriate time for that right now.
No, I mean, we can try to answer that question. I mean, that's, you mean like, to raise capital?
Sure, like, it's like, we need this much to have mats or mirrors or a sign, that kind of thing. Like if I can find that enough, let it happen. Still playing with
I think
ideas
it
here.
depends. So I guess a question I would have for you is when you're looking for investments or capital or investors, would you find yourself more comfortable having partners that have a share or percentage of a business? Or would you be more comfortable in like financing through a financial institution?
Right.
Or would you rather go a route of something like a Kickstarter or where it's a percentage off the top, but then nobody has a percentage of your business and there's no long-term interest rate, right? So where would you think that when you're thinking about that type of capital, where does your comfort lie?
My comfort lie, right? So I did talk with Tatiana, and she said, she can renovate the whole place for me, and she would add it to the rent. It's like, okay, I don't have a client base yet, right? And I know people have starting new companies and say, can we have the first few months, rent free? Which makes me a little like weary, like, when am I gonna answer that question? But that is an option. But then again, I need the client base.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be, that was why it was my first thought,
Right.
is, I mean, the most, it's very difficult to make long-term financial obligations without, a, revenue stream that you're confident in. Right, because, typically you pay those financial obligations out of that revenue stream. And so if that's not stable, you try to find ways to not take on, permanent obligations, specifically long-term obligations, because each month that goes, it might be one month, but when you look at, month 1 and 2 and 3, and that's sometimes the way, is one of the challenges for the businesses is it keeps, so you want to keep your fixed costs as low as possible.
Right.
But just because it allows you more flexibility, it allows you more time, right, to get your name out there and, but that's just my feeling. And I think in terms of I think the question that Aaron was saying, yeah, it really depends. I mean, you either take a loan to get, take a loan, a small business loan, right? There's also organizations called, I met with a business owner last night who's thinking about moving into town, and she had secured financing through the SBA. So it's called the Small Business Association. I've gotten loans from the SBA before, and they're usually easy to work with. So that's one way that you can pay for some of your materials.
There may be another alternative too, if you want to think a little outside the box. I don't know if there's anything available, but because of the way that your business will be and the health benefits that it focuses on, oftentimes the federal government will have community grants for health programs that increase community health.
Okay.
So connecting with the local congressperson to say, are there grants available? Here's what my business is. Here's how I think it'll serve. There's no other business like this in the community of Hampshire or know your market of what's your competition look like? If there are other things, do you provide a unique service that helps benefit community health? Can you help provide something that gives a service to underserved members of the community? Things like that could also then help you find financial assistance that could be grant money.
Yeah.
Which is nice because you don't have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Especially as a small business owner, that could
That'd be
be.
nice.
No, that's a great, I mean, that's really a good idea. Just I don't know how many people know what they do, but, a lot of the work we did in downtown here was the function of a grant that we got from the government.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of the government programs, they're geared for trying to help small businesses get started. So I think that's.
Yeah, even if not through the federal, the state, I mean, our state rep has an office right here off of 72.
Right.
And our state senator, and you can schedule an appointment with them and just introduce yourself and say, I don't know if there's state funding available for these type of programs, but
Yeah,
I'd be interested in learning more.
that's very good.
Yeah, right here. from the strip mall.
Yeah, no, I ever wondered if I'd wind up walking in there.
Yeah.
It's your time. If you, okay.
Have you looked at like a radius of what type of competition and market you have if, should you open in Hampshire? I hope you open in Hampshire, but
Yeah.
have you looked at like when you open in Hampshire? What that competition looks like in the area? I know there's no other in Hampshire. I don't
Right.
believe there's one in Pingree.
I'll tell you this right now, I only want to do this in Hampshire. So that could be maybe detrimental to me starting this, but I only want to do it here. It's the only way I'm gonna do this, and I know that in my heart. It's just what it is. But I know Pingree, I don't believe they have
No.
a martial arts. I know Genoa has one, and I actually met the master at one point without knowing it. And I talked a lot about growth and stuff with him. Good guy. I know there's one in Sycamore and Elgin. Huntley has one.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few different parents about their kids being students in different locations and what they thought.
So you've done your research. That's really good. I
Yeah,
think too, when you add Pingree and Hampshire together as well as parts of Huntley,
Yeah.
you're at almost 20,000 people.
I was gonna say that, yeah. It's a lot.
I feel like it's a good spot.
And we're growing,
Yes,
right?
that's right. And that was something I had to convince my grandmaster about. He was unsure about that, and I found like different sites for him, and I told him what's been happening as of this last year and how much, like the sort of stats, since 2020, third fastest growing community was on somewhere. And I don't know, I went to drive with him to show him all the new areas and everything, and he's like, okay, Michael. So got past that.
Well, I mean, I think martial arts programs, people support them, it seems. Every community has them, which is nice, which means that I think your odds of success are really good.
And you build advocates. So like any students I know that go to school with my kids, inevitably at some point, they ask me if they want to go and do, some kind of martial art. Why? Because so-and-so in my class does it, right? So it's, yeah. It's good. Well, any more questions you have, obviously, we're always here.
Yeah, no, thank you again. I appreciate this opportunity to go back and forth like this.
Yeah,
That's
good.
nice.
I hope you found it a good use of time.
You give me a lot of ideas, things to contemplate and really seriously consider.
It's good.
So, yeah,
Good luck to you.
Yeah. Best of luck.
Keep us informed in your progress.
Thank you,
Obviously,
yeah.
hopefully we'll be able to see it ourselves.
and maybe in a month I'll tell you what's up.
All right, sounds good.
Sounds good. Nice
All right,
try.
nice meeting you. Thanks for coming.
Cheers, thank you.
Hi,
All right, yeah.
thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming.
I have my phone because our little ones are with a sitter and we never leave them with a sitter.
We actually just went on our first date in probably what?
A
year
really
or
long
so, year or
time.
two, probably.
Over a year.
Yeah, so,
That was it. It was
well,
fun.
yes, thank you again for having us. We are here today initially just to gain a little more information. I just called in and it was like, hey, we're curious about starting a business in Hampshire. Who should we talk to? And before you know it, we're in front of all you folks. So, I guess I can't complain after watching Michael go here. You're not that big a shark, so
No.
you're all right. I'm gonna let my wife, this is my wife's fish, actually, so I'm gonna let her go and chime in from time to time, I suppose.
So, kind of the big focus is tumbling and developmental play. So we're both special ed teachers, but I teach students with intellectual disabilities that are 18 to 22. So there are kind of a lot of whys behind this business. Initially, for years now, we've talked about opening a business where I can employ my students. Because our students are so underserved, especially after they graduate at 22. There's no places for them to work. They're part of DRS, which is the Department of Rehabilitation Services, but they get a job coach for a very short period of time and then they're on their own. And if they can't be employed without a job coach, then they have nothing and they sit at home. And there's a lot of funding that people talk about that's not really very available to all of our students. And in our community, being a smaller community, that's something that we need, where we can employ our District 300 vocational students and graduates that have intellectual disabilities or various disabilities that need to be close to home. And so that kind of started this whole business idea. And then we had our daughter, and then she's 5 now, and our son, who's 1.5 years, and he had a stroke when he was born. And so we have been through just a lot of like therapy and experiences over the last 1.5 years, that brought us again closer to like, okay, we really need to do something here. Like, we are invested in this community. Our kids are here. We're staying here. Our community like really rallied around us through everything with our son, Vinny. We were here last May for his birthday.
I was gonna say, I thought you too.
Mhm.
Yes.
I can't even talk about it because I'll cry again. Heather came to us, and we have like the Vinny the Warrior Day for Pediatric Stroke Awareness in Hampshire now, which was so beautiful. But then our daughter started kindergarten and cheer. And with cheer, we were bouncing from one location to the next. We were on wrestling mats with 5-year-olds. We were in a horse barn. We were in the baseball place that has no window. Like, there's no place for them to go in our community. And so we were like, everything just keeps leading us to, we need to do something. And then we took our son to a toddler class in another town. And we had to leave because he has some sensory issues, and they were everything but welcoming. And his sensory issues aren't even that big, but he needed a little support from us, and they weren't really open to that support. So that was it. I was like, we're doing this because I don't want any family to go through that. And so I'd really, really love to start a business where like during the day we can do developmental play, that 0 to 5, 0 to 4 age range before they're in school, where we're really, really focusing on the developmental milestones that they need to meet. You know, a lot of what we've done with our son, and he's doing really well because of the amazing therapist, but EI has a huge, huge wait list. So families are trying to do a lot of this stuff by themselves. So if they can go somewhere and then meet with other families, and I don't want this to be like all students or children with disabilities. I want this to be inclusive, where all families can come together. And so if we can do like the 0 to 4 for the developmental play, and then do the tumbling. Tumbling is, you guys know tumbling is like huge, right? With all the little ones,
Oh, I know.
our whole cheer team. But we have.
Yeah, well, Huntley now has a third gymnastics, or not gymnastics, but
And
they
they
have a
have
third location
weightlifts.
now, so.
And they're not close. It's not convenient.
No,
Like, it's not far, but it is not convenient, especially at night when you're trying to get there.
I live at one, I know.
Yeah.
I'm 6
Yeah.
days a week.
And it's, yeah, that was a huge piece. There's like you guys, folks were saying earlier, there's a need for recreational space here. And I know there's talks about the Park District facility in the future, but it sounds like that's a ways away, and I don't even know what happened with the results there of the community poll. And I don't really know
The official vote is April.
Oh, that one's April, okay. I
They're
didn't,
meeting
yeah,
tonight, but it would be on the April.
it would be on the April ballot, and I don't even know a real timeline on that.
So we were looking, and like, you know, a quarter of our community is 18 and under, right? Am I off base there? About a quarter is what we looked at in the census. And we need to be able to reach all of them, you know, 0 to 18, you know, just gen ed, our special ed, everyone, right? We want to be able to have a place where we can bring our community together. And I'll tell you, the one thing that we learned from being part of, you know, the junior whips with cheer is I met other families who have kids with disabilities in this community. And you're not alone, even though you kind of feel alone until you meet those people. And I think the more we can have recreation, like, you know, we have the tumbling, the developmental play, we have your business, you know, like the more we have these recreational facilities for families to come together and do things together, the more we're gonna meet each other, and we're gonna become a tighter, stronger community for it. You know what I'm saying? So that's our goal, kind of where we're at. I mean, we have like a informal business plan. We have mentors. You wanna touch on that stuff?
On, oh, I'm sorry, on our mentors or our business
Yeah.
plan, I'm sorry.
I knew it.
No, so, we see it as, there's a massive demand, as you folks just said, a handful of you are practically live in Huntley. And why not have those folks, you would rather stay here, you know what I mean?
Well, then we can bring Pingree and other surrounding communities here. And what are the parents gonna do? Drop them off and they're gonna go to the Hampshire social, or they're gonna, go out to eat, and we need to bring have a reason for people to be coming here.
You're experts in this area, hands down, more than myself. It seems as though that more and more acknowledgement or diagnosing of special needs is increasing every single day. Is that true? Like, to me, it feels that way.
So, off the record. So with COVID, there's a lot of things that changed, and our little ones who were, in that 0 to 2 range really missed out on a lot. And I will be honest, this is not like a mask, don't mask conversation, but from a language and communication and development standpoint, the kids have struggled to the point where the CDC has literally changed what the requirements are for the milestones that should be met from language and development, and they've lowered it because our kids aren't meeting what they need to because of the masking. And again, this is not like anything.
Not
to do with
about
that.
preventing COVID,
This is
man, this is
about-
about you can't see.
Right,
someone,
the kids
it's
can't
part
see
of
their-
communication. right?
Correct. And just like even facial expressions and emotions, and like we struggled with that with our kids in school. Our students who are hearing impaired or like, the clear masks did not work very well. They're always fogging up and not very helpful. And so, you have that. You have kids who are misdiagnosed. You have kids who aren't diagnosed that should be. And yeah, there is definitely, I will say, our populations in school, year after year, our program alone is growing. And, I work for U46 and we went from having, 5 classrooms for transition for our vocational age group, ranging in various like exceptional abilities. To now we have 6 just housed at South Elgin High School and 3 more outside of it. And that's just in the last few years. So it definitely is.
Yeah.
It is increasing. And there's a million reasons people have why. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like as a community, we can embrace our families, we can embrace our students in just a different way. I don't want them to be separated and feel like there's nothing for them. I want families to know like everyone's welcome. And I found that in cheer where there's other families whose kids have sensory issues, and I'd be like nervous to bring Vinny somewhere, and they'd be like, don't worry about it. And they like showed me what to do and where to go and how to help him through it. And like I didn't know those things, and now I don't have to be like nervous to bring them to a cheer party because the other parents are like, oh, don't worry about it. Your kid's screaming, like no big deal. Like he's having a full meltdown on the floor. Like it's totally fine, and it's acceptable to them. They're like, oh, this is your world. We understand this world. I feel like we moved to Hampshire in 2018 with our daughter. We moved from Lombard, and we definitely wanted like more of like a smaller town feel.
Sure.
For sure. It makes me a little nervous, you guys, how much we're growing though. Like slow it down a little bit.
Yeah. I told my mother the other day, I'm like, I think we got like 3 or 4 pizza places now.
Unfortunately, we don't have any say in it.
No, I know.
No.
But I think that there's a way as we grow to maintain that feel. But it takes our community to help us keep that, and I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm saying.
It does.
So I think one of the things that's super interesting in this, I don't have the experience to my colleagues do with tumbling, although I'm sure he will want to someday or go join Kabani and be a ninja. I don't know, we'll see. But from this conversation and listening to the stories that you have been through personally, having programs available or maybe dedicated programs in addition to the tumbling classes and the cheer classes and the ones that you would have, but having programs dedicated to special needs is a competitive differentiator that I think would significantly expand your customer base and help you grow fast. So something to keep in mind and to consider. It sounds like you're already thinking that way, but I would definitely keep that in mind because that sounds like something others are not offering. And not with the experience both of you had in the special needs community.
I would love for us to work with NISRA.
That's, yeah.
And because I know from, back in the day, college days, working for special rec associations, they would partner with different organizations and park districts just to find space to hold classes. And so being able to do things like that, we want to have sensory friendly events for families, like family nights to bring families
Well, and they provide
together.
transportation for their members.
Yes,
So if they
Great
know
point.
you are a business that caters programming
Mhm.
to special needs on specific days or nights, they can have that be a part where they're transporting participants to be a
Yeah,
part of that.
that's a great point.
100%,
Yeah.
I forgot about that. What questions? Sorry, I rambled. What questions do you all have?
I want
Space.
No, yeah, I
Oh,
kind
thank
of
you.
wanna piggyback off of that because I mean personally, I have kids who go to gymnastics, but I also, my daughter has sensory issues. We're in therapy once a week. We drive all over for everything
Mhm.
and kind of like finding the place that was a good home, you're kind of going back to tumbling, like gymnastics, that was tough. It was a lot of trial and error. So I guess like, could you just elaborate a little more on the learning studio side? Like I know you said you wanted play groups and things like that. Like what do you see? Do you see it kind of as like,
Oh, you're fine.
like my kids go to Hugs, so that's what I'm used to in Huntley, so they do toddler time. Like do you
Yeah.
see something like that, a little more sensory friendly? Like what do you see that expanding to?
Different. So I really want to focus on a smaller age range. So I started mapping out like the course and sequence of the curriculum. And I really want to, something similar to Hugs where it's, you have like age 1 to 3 all in the same room
Mhm.
doing the same classes. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I want to shrink it down and go based off of, where a child is developmentally. We might have a child that's, 18 months old, but really needs to be in that 0 to 1 class because we're still working on sitting up. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to meet our community where they are developmentally, especially our little guys. Not everyone grows and learns at the same rate. And we have preemies that just take a little bit longer, but chronologically, it doesn't match where they're at developmentally, right? And so we need to be able to have that flexibility. And we didn't find that with Vinny initially. We found, I really wanted to get him like in a TOTS class around other people, but he couldn't walk. And so they wouldn't take him. And so I went to Royalty and I was like, please, 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 will you just let us come? Like, just watch how I work with him and let us just trial. I want him to engage and like be around other kids. And they were very sweet and they were like, sure, let's just do a trial and see how it goes. I don't want any family to have to go beg for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my personal experience, I can say that this has the possibility to grow faster than you think.
Mhm.
Honestly, I mean, like what you're explaining, right, is it's all about environment. Not all, but like a lot of it has to do with environment. And there's only so many places that offer that, right? And there's a lot of kids that need it. And a lot.
And I don't want anyone to think this is replacing therapy. So I'm not a therapist, right?
Right.
But we have friends who are therapists who are like, I want to come in and teach classes. And I'm like, that's great. Let's build curriculum, Like we have, there's an OT watching our kids right now.
Watching our kids as an occupational therapist, and she used to do private practice and left
Yeah.
private practice for her insurance, or, health insurance purposes, obviously. But she's the kind of thing that would love to come in and offer a group setting for various types of needs, and that can, and she's able to work with 0 through
Right.
adult. So, I mean,
I-
the versatility that we will offer and like the accessibility to all different groups of people
I
is
think there's
huge.
so many, groups that we want to reach within the community. That I feel like I need to like slow myself
Reach could be.
a little bit.
So my kids hit that age point where braces came into effect and And one of the things with that was I was shocked at how far people were coming to Hampshire for that. Like, I mean, I knew people from St. Charles that were driving all the way to Hampshire for braces. And I don't know if there's a lack of dentists or orthodontics that offer that. But I could see that if that's a place, I mean, it's not only Hampshire, you could pull from so many different areas.
Agreed.
You know, so that's a little bit different in terms of if people know there's a space where kids can learn and the environment is right, you know.
I think that's what,
Real quick, Aaron, Liz has had her hand up for a while.
Oh,
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's my fault. I should be paying attention. Go ahead, Liz, jump in.
Oh, no problem. Have you, I was thinking maybe you could reach out to the local hospitals as well, because they have their discharge planners and they're looking for programs like this, especially if there's nothing around. And if you have a small market segment to begin with, I think that might help bring in some more clientele.
Okay.
Great
Thank you.
idea.
Obviously, I don't know if my wife previously mentioned, any kind of partnership with the park district. I know we said we didn't know where they would fall, but all these, like we said, there's so much possible for clientele.
Yeah, I mean, I
For
think,
sure.
yes. The space, though, what are you guys thinking? That's it, that.
That was part of our reason we're here, is if you Google, space, commercial space or warehouse space in Hampshire, you find maybe future stuff off the 90s.
Yeah.
And to support the, like, company and then, talking to the, Hampton Junior Webs, like, they need a home. They literally, like, someone houses all of our gym mats and drives it from location to location. There's no place to store it. Like, it's not ideal for the kids, the coaches, who, by the way, don't get paid. It's all volunteer. These people just love what they do with our girls. And so, like, we need something that does have some higher ceilings, obviously, some larger space. We definitely need to do soundproofing in between the rooms. And so there's a lot of different aspects to it. We're really lucky in the fact that my brothers both own businesses. My brother does recreational business. He runs lacrosse companies. And so we've been bouncing ideas off of them and talking to them about everything, which has been helpful.
Yeah. There is a space in the industrial park that we used to have a place very similar to what you're describing.
Okay.
Without the special needs component. It
Okay.
was really just a straight field house where a lot of local baseball teams were bred from there. When I was coaching baseball years ago, we used to use it for our team. They had workouts being done there. I don't know if it's occupied. That was the Flurries.
The Flurries one.
The Flurries.
Not by the dog, not by the.
By the dog place?
It is, but yeah, it's right over there. So again, I haven't been in there in a long time. They had issues with the building, so I was gonna, with the roof specifically, but you might want to
I
talk
can
about
tell
something.
you
Is that the one that houses the pet resort? Is that the same building you're
I think
referring
it's
to?
on, it's
Or a
on-
different
No,
one?
I think,
no, it is.
it might
I think the pet resort's on the far end, and this was sort of in the middle.
So the baseball place is still there. We went and had cheer
Oh,
there.
is that true?
It's
Okay.
missing windows.
Oh, so that's what
They
you're talking
have,
about.
they have like foam up in the windows, I hope nobody here owns that property, but whoever owns the property really is not taking care of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
The
yeah.
park
The
lot
parking
is-
lot is
potholes.
dangerous, it's
Okay.
dark, the girls are trying to get out of the cars at night and it's really dark. You're bouncing all
Thank
over
you.
the
Thank
place.
you.
The outside, like one of them, there's like melted blinds in the window, everything's like, things are being torn off on the outside of the
But I do
building,
think-
it's not,
To your statement earlier, like warehouse style space,
yeah.
most of the developers that we have coming in to talk to the village are looking to put up warehousing type buildings. Would you agree?
I would agree. I would say they're putting up, 100,000 plus square feet though.
Which, that's what we were running into is
Yeah.
the amount, or the size
It's-
is way beyond what we would be able to afford to
Yeah, it's just. so-
Minimum height for ceiling?
for the flyers.
The new one, right?
Oh, geez, you would be 16, 20.
That's something.
I mean, you know what I mean?
I mean,
It would be
if
limited.
it's dark without being able to help the whippers,
If you weren't
That might
doing,
be
if you weren't doing a full cheer or any cheer thing on cheer mat, you could get away with
Oh, yeah.
what this, but once you go, well, trampolines then, never mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, you need a 20 foot or
How
16 foot
big
ceiling.
how
at least.
high are the ceilings and the empty space at proposed mall?
They're pretty tall.
They're pretty tall. That center
Yeah.
space.
What kind of square footage is that? It's gotta be-
I know, because we took
Yeah.
10,000.
It's about 10,000.
Where's this at?
Right next to Iron Walk and.
Right next to.
really?
It's that
The
big?
center
Okay,
part.
yeah, I
that
didn't realize
whole
that.
center.
It's a
Price.
decent
Now,
size.
they did build out a window tinning, but still that center area is
Damn,
blocked.
I didn't realize it was that big. It must go back far, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It goes back the whole way.
Gosh. Now, my only thought was with that is prime space though.
Yes.
And that's big
It's,
money.
um,
Probably double a back to the woods warehouse type of thing.
there's, I mean,
And there's. trade-
there's plans for another strip mall to be built, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
There's that. I assume, I'm thinking there's gonna be more and more.
Certainly.
Who owns, Josh, now it used to be a daycare and then a landscaper bought it and,
It's a,
Small wonders.
Yeah,
you know, where that.
armor towing, they're towing and
Oh, it's
repossessions.
towing now.
Oh, landscape.
I know, I thought of that too, because at one point they were talking about having a martial arts studio going there, and that ended up not happening with the prior owner. I don't know how much of the space that they're using, I'll have to go in and check. When they were doing their permits, they were talking about using all of it though, so.
Gotcha, okay.
Hmm.
But I think that's where like either Josh or Jay or somebody
Okay.
can really help you identify your potential, because they're really
Certainly.
looped into the
Certainly.
developers
There's
as
also
well
thinking
as
for close property.
yeah,
the open areas, and they can also help
because.
introduce you to some of those building
Okay.
owners.
Okay.
And the good thing with that property is right now it's built out, so it's blank slate,
Okay,
you know.
And we have, even in the industry right now, so if you guys are familiar with Lifezone 360 out there in
Sure.
Carpentersville, my wife's older brother built it, and then the younger one, the Cross, operated it for the first year. So now they're actually building another one just on the east side of the mall there.
Hmm.
So, we have access to, a lot of stuff like that. He's always been very generous with his,
fine.
I think
time and his crew. we'll call
Sure,
it. Yeah,
Sure,
so,
that's great.
One thing that to keep in mind, is that I don't think customer base is gonna be your problem at all. I think that the tough thing is going to be having to make the decisions of what programs specifically are you going to offer and which ones are you just not gonna be able to cater to, because you're gonna have finite time and space.
100%.
And,
You can always expand,
so
right?
I just looked
That's
at
what we've been
Hugs,
talking
yeah, and
about
that's
is,
one
like,
thing too. I looked at
starting one
Hugs, for
place.
the next 10 weeks, they have 113 classes listed. And those are weekly classes. And I mean, obviously they're running a handful at a time. That's a lot. And obviously they didn't get there overnight. I totally
Sure.
understand. But I went to the TOC section. 50% of the TOCs, like the 10 TOC classes they offered, were full, waiting list only. Like there is, and then the same thing went to tumbling, intermediate tumbling, beginning tumbling, or, prime times waiting lists.
Mhm.
So just being local, I think we could drag so much from Pingree here, south of us, north of us, and then with the specialty piece added and just the willingness to work with anyone and everyone.
I think you'll get the natural draw from the people that are currently tumbling, but I think that special needs part
Will,
is really what's gonna.
and it might just go
exponentially
that way.
grow your business.
Yeah.
Because you even think about the kids that do get support in schools. Outside of school, there's nothing. Yeah,
Even if it's just for the parents, like you were talking about your story, the parents to meet other parents and families with kids that are in have the same or similar needs.
Yeah,
To have that feeling of community within their own group or within a group.
yeah.
I think that has a lot of value to the community, to the surrounding area, but that's where I think you're gonna have that difficult balance, right, of.
Who do we serve more or provide,
Or,
like you said, the classes?
yeah, or just, making sure that you're serving yourselves is what you want that business to be, knowing that you're gonna have client base on both sides of that spectrum, right?
Well, and I think too, it's important for us to have both sides, right? Because like I have a 5-year-old who, she has her own medical challenges, but for all intents and purposes, like, she is the sister of a younger sibling with special needs. And we talk a lot about that, like the mom groups, about how they are kind of like left out a lot. And I think it's really important that like the whole family has a place to go, not
Yes.
just the child with special needs, not just like our daughter, when the therapists come to our house, like, she's like, I want to do it too, you know? So having a place where the parents can be like, I'm gonna have this one in this class and this one in this class is so important to me so that nobody feels left out. And again, I think that that's a big challenge for me, especially
Yeah.
to be like, I mean, like, I have like 13 classes lined out, you know, based on like development and tumbling and so just really being able to like narrow down that focus and like you're saying, start small and be able to grow. It's just so hard to leave people out.
Well, that's
You
what
know?
the difficult thing is gonna be.
Yes.
Scaling.
Yeah.
And it's not leaving out, it's the balance. It's,
Yeah.
it sounds like you could fill a whole schedule with the cheer programs and
Oh,
people
yeah.
that just don't have a home right now as far as facilities.
Yeah,
But to your point, you also don't want to fill all of that and not have a space for the families with special needs, or maybe it's a family program where it's siblings and special needs together in a, whatever that may be.
And you
That's a great idea.
could scale, you could scale so fast to where all of a sudden now you actually need more of you, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, and some people you trust that are qualified to like execute what you have within you, right? And that also, assuming, I assume there are people out there, but are there a lot?
There's a lot of people wanting to get out of teaching some of this.
That,
Feel all the time.
yeah, that's all.
And like you asked Michael the question earlier, why is the time now? And it was just that she wants to get out. It's been a decade and she's, if you know a teacher,
You,
probably know
your
that.
wife.
Well, I know.
It's a different world, and I feel like I can do so much more doing this. And my hands are so tied at school with our kids now and what I can do for their families, and so this is just like a whole different world, and I feel like it's just one of those things where I just feel like we just have to do this, like we have to put our own money into it, like we're gonna look into getting a business loan, and I started looking at trying to get like grants, grants for women, grants for, servicing, families with special needs and stuff. I love the idea of, I heard you say like, go talk to our local state reps and stuff and ask them, because I am struggling to find stuff. Everything is like for science or like medical, or literally funding going overseas and not being for communities here, underserved communities in Poland and Ukraine, and like, that's great, but we're missing out on communities within our here that need help.
Our reps would be able to connect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it's a sound advice, right? I mean, they're gonna be the ones that are gonna be able to connect you with that. I think
There's
that,
a lot though, there's a lot, there's like pages and pages, It's just a
yeah,
matter of-
it's work, right? And it's
Yeah,
just, you gotta do.
100%.
Navigating the bureaucracy, requires a lot of energy and a lot of work. But I think an agent that could help you, is that, there used to be an SBA consultant, at LG Community College, and
Okay.
she was helpful. I don't know if she's still there yet, because
I think the program is now back on.
is it, it's in it moved to McHenry or something too, someone had mentioned, but that's something to look into, is, and what they're designed for is to help people, who have a passion for something they want to do, but really are struggling with sort of, connecting to the resources that they need, and
Mhm.
that's what their job is
That's
to
amazing.
navigate those systems. Like when we got our money from the state, our grant, we hired a consultant. You shouldn't necessarily have to hire this person. I think it's a service that's provided, but
Okay.
that person was critically important to navigating the bureaucracy. I mean, without her assistance, there's no way we would have gotten that. In my view, I think, having to
I don't
try.
know how many calls she said, that's nice, but that's not getting you the grant.
That's right. That's cute.
That's
Good
a-
idea. So, I would look for people like that as a vendor,
Yeah, it's back up now, so
and it's at ACC, so that's close.
SBDC,
That's it.
Illinois Small Business Development Center. at
Oh,
ECC.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be good for yours as well, for the grants.
Right.
Josh, were you gonna-
We're just gonna have like joint meetings.
All along the lines of, people helping find the grants, Representative Underwood's office
Yeah.
is the one that always sends us stuff. She's the one that sent, her office is the one that sends, her local governments pages of grants that we then sift through and try to find stuff that's eligible. And, this year we got $520,000 grant for infrastructure for it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, her office is.
But yeah, they track that stuff really well, so I would reach out to them specifically at the federal level.
Were you using the consultant as the grant writer or the grant, how was that what it was?
She wrote.
They were the grant writers, okay.
She wrote it, she advised on it.
Obviously,
she-
they know how to win them, gotcha.
She had applied for other similar grants and knew what to look for, what not to look
Mhm.
for.
Gotcha.
She knew people down there.
Yes.
Relationships,
I
right?
love it.
You
Question.
have to
go ahead.
really know what you're doing with grant writing.
Yeah.
For sure.
I know
My,
somebody else who's written grants that has done well with the grants they.
I wouldn't say I'm a grant writer, but.
obviously the personal, I think maybe at the end of the day, it's a personal thing, but, in terms of being more off 72 versus saying back in the industrial park, so on and so forth, obviously there's about big differences in, visibility, so on and so forth, obviously, social media these days. I just wanted to get anyone's thoughts in terms of, what we possibly had in size might be just, I don't know, is that realistic in something like that, at a square footage, or like 5,000 square feet?
Yeah, my thought is.
$22 a square foot, you're talking,
The type of business you're doing, I don't think you need, thoroughfare frontage.
no.
People are gonna go,
Correct.
and so, and the difference in price from a major thoroughfare frontage,
Mhm.
to an industrial park, which is, I think it feels like, isn't that where you guys do your gymnastics, is
No.
there used to be one in,
That's
up
Royalty.
Randall and
Oh.
72, right by Sushi Station, in there at Spring Hill Gymnastics, it was
Okay.
called. That was an industrial park, we used to go for my son for baseball, almost always in an industrial park.
Yeah,
It's gonna be the cheapest square foot
Correct.
price you're gonna
Correct.
get.
The only downside
That's
is,
what I think. but-
yeah, you gotta find one that can
accommodate.
break it up into partials
Yeah.
where it's not,
That's
that's
my-
trucking and.
And I know we brought it up a couple of times. I think with your special need programs mixed with the programs for tumbling or cheer or those, you are a destination business.
Yeah.
You're not I should stop and see what this business.
I gotta pass by and hard to see
I
it.
think people are going to seek out when
Yeah.
they seek out programs for their family and they see you offer that program, they are now going to seek. you.
Gotcha.
And there's so many different forms of marketing that, like, if somebody's seeking you out, they'll find you.
Oh,
Okay.
And I'm sure you guys have already thought about this, cause like you have an OT babysitting, but, teaming up with like OTs, cause our OT is fantastic, but everything that she recommends to us is like in St. Charles, in West Chicago, and like, it's just stuff we can't
It's not.
do. So if you talk to a couple offices or whatever, say, hey, we're having these sensory friendly events, like, can you recommend here?
Yeah.
That's another like base of people to come.
Everything is far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, even therapy, like we've been talking too, with like, there's no therapist close to here.
No,
If you have PT, OT or speech and you're doing private or a lot, like, we can't get, our OT is virtual, our son needs someone in person, so we have to drive to South Barrington, like. And then all these places have wait lists too for therapy, because like you're saying, there's this growing need for
Yeah.
therapists. And so the closer we can start to bring some of this to our own town, I think is important.
Yeah.
Especially as we're growing.
Well, thank you guys for.
I appreciate you guys.
Do you have any other questions?
Oh, we will have probably a ton. I'm just gonna go knock on your door. I'm just
Question to think, or, thing to consider with the OT conversation and your experience in that too. If you find a space where you're like, this space is just too big for us, is there an OT or OT practice you could partner with where you subdivide that they do OT in part of it, you have your program in part of it? And it kind of.
In
brings
our,
similar
so
businesses
we
together.
wrote this out in like, not, we wrote a conservative, moderate, and ideal. Like a plan of that, and yes, in our ideal, we would have a tot space, a main floor, and then like a classroom slash dance space, a few offices, so on and so forth, whether you're subletting the space or the office.
of it.
I'm saying, 'cause that can help with your cost share.
Yeah, that's the ideal one, yes. And then, I know Michael over here wants to do karate, so. Or
Yeah.
martial arts.
I mean, Josh and Jay always have their finger on the pulse of what is being planned for, what is currently open. So,
And that's the other thing is, I mean, we've been here 4 years, but we don't know everything that's still here.
Sure.
no, wait, no, it's hard, yeah.
We're just learning.
Thank you so much for all your
Yeah, thanks for your
time.
time.
Appreciate
Wow.
it. Good luck with your
Thanks for
mission.
support.
Awesome.
Thank you.
As we told Michael, we're here for you. So,
Thank
you
you.
obviously know David, but you can reach out to us.
Thanks again.
David.
This is David.
I know.
Good luck to both groups. too.
Yes. Yeah.
100%.
I love this design. You guys are free to leave if you want.
Yeah, you don't feel obligated to wait around for this.
Yeah, right. It doesn't get.
The sooner
That
we
was
get out,
the
the sooner we
interesting
talk.
Yeah. You can watch the rest on YouTube.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can jump into YouTube.
Just
Yeah.
goes flat, good points.
We're gonna go home to the babies.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
See you later.
Good day. Thanks again, folks. Have a good
All
night.
right, thank you. Okay, well, that was exciting.
Yeah.
It was our first time we had done that. I thought that was really, really cool. And, yeah, like to see us do that some more. So great job, everyone, on that. So moving on the agenda, we're at item number 5. Bill, was wondering if you could share anything on beautification for us.
Can you repeat that, Ryan? I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We're on item number 5 on the agenda, the beautification committee report. I was just curious if you had anything you wanted to share. And I hope you're feeling better.
Nothing significant. Yeah, this connection's cutting in and out. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. It's like hit or miss on my end. I'm in the process. I need to schedule and arrange a beautification meeting shortly here, probably within the next couple of weeks, to meet about the downtown wayfinding signs. Other than that, the remaining projects from 2022 have for the most part been complete, with the exception of Rose Garden or Gardenberry, which was tabled, or an extension was granted for their work completion early next year. They apparently had some issues with their general contractors, so they're probably going to be coming back to the table with a new GC to finish up the paint work, the upper level of masonry. Beyond that, that's about all that I can think of that's going on.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the Gardenberry, just to, I think you had mentioned something about an issue with the contractor, so they filed the extension, I'm assuming it was granted.
Yeah, they have until the end of the budget season to get it in this fiscal year, so they have until April 30th.
Okay.
But they are continuing to do, internal work, fixtures and carpeting and painting and everything on the inside. And last I knew, they still plan on opening up by early February.
Oh, by early February.
Great.
Because the signs went up, I was a little surprised by that. They're gonna take those down. I mean, there's significant work that needs to be done. Isn't there in that space?
Well, I don't know. The signs,
Is it just,
I
are they planning just painting? I guess.
don't know. The signs, all they did was, take inserts,
Right, just,
put new inserts in. So I don't know if they're just gonna do their work around it or what, but
I can
Alright.
speak to that.
oh, yeah, go ahead.
In our last conversation with, I don't know if the son is Tony. Yeah, Dan is the dad. Tony, I think, is the son. Jay Hedges and I met with the son, and it was made very clear that those large surface-mounted signs were going to need to be removed, and the brick veneer or the brick masonry was to run and be installed behind them. And our hope was at the same time that possibly those signs could be removed and permanently left off. And at that point, we would encourage them to do a perpendicular hanging sign of some type. And it appears just on the logistics and the way that it worked out, well, you see what we have in front of us now. We're back to exactly what we had before. And it was made clear that we let's just say there's alternative signage that would be much more aesthetically pleasing. How's that for diplomacy?
Yes, love it, love it.
Anyway, we have what we have, and yep, it got done. And I was a little surprised as well. So at this point, it was made clear the last time we met with Tony, those signs were to come down in order to put the veneer behind them. And now that we have a new GC involved, I'm not sure how that's going to work forward, but we're simply going to press forward with the agreement and the understanding that we had previously.
Fantastic, good.
All right, thank you, Bill. We appreciate that, and we look forward to hearing about your meeting during our next get together next week. So hope you feel better, buddy. Thanks for participating. This, being a little weather. Okay.
All right.
Mr. David. Commissioner Pizzolato.
All right.
Would you like to share with us the results?
Yep. So thank you everyone for taking time for the survey. It was a challenge, wasn't it? Right?
It was
Yes. Like 18 topics, rank them, and they start looking the same. So what you have in front of you is 1 through 18 of the overall ranking. I also included lenses on the far right. And then I broke it out on the next pages, infrastructure, sustainability by each one. So if we want to be able to go through it at some point and see how everything broke out by lens, it's another way to look at the overall ranking. But as you can see, I think no surprise, a comprehensive plan, developing one, ranked number 1. Close 2 and 3 was expanding infrastructure, along with the facade program. Number 4 was keep website current, and number 5 was analyze opportunities for state and federal funding for big projects. I'm not going to go through all 18, but I think here, when you look at the breakout on the next pages, I think what that shows is really kind of what fell to the top and what fell, or what stayed at the top and what fell to the overall bottom. So sustainability ranked outside of the comprehensive plan, 16, 17, 18 were the subsequent next ones. So not that they're not important, but they definitely fell to the bottom of the overall ranking. Really, it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of, ideally, I was hoping that like a group of infrastructure or land use rose to the top. We didn't see that. It really just differs by overall topic. So I think what we can do is use this, and I don't know if it's better to break this out as we look at tackling these things or assigning different areas, different groups. Does it make sense to have infrastructure go to one area? Does it make sense to have communication go to this other area? So that's the overall results. Where we go from here, I think it's more about assignment at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of, I thought that, well, thank you for putting that together. Does anyone have any comment on, I mean, obviously, we all voted, and it's a pretty straight line, and I think this is a great way to do it, Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you again for suggesting it the second time. I think it really is much more efficient than, trying to sort through this in conversation.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any thoughts about the organization before we kind of start to look at, the next step in the strategy?
For me, I appreciate that you broke it out by lens just to see how did each lens.
Yeah.
But I think the first page you have in the overall ranking would be where I would focus the time to just say, irregardless of the lens, here are the top priorities or topics that the BDC members had voted on. And it was interesting to me when you look at the results, there is definitely like 1 through 10 versus everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, the scores drop pretty significantly after that point.
Mhm.
What were you thinking as far as the number that would be floated? How many of these would we float up to the village board for
So, yeah, so
consideration or?
yeah, let's have that conversation. Is that what do we do next? We had created the charting the course document back in January of last year. It's hard to imagine it's been a full year since we had that meeting. You know, so what we've done now is, and I think this is about as succinct and is undergirded, right, supported a list of priorities. You know, I think the process that we went through was very good. It was thorough. I think we got a wide input from all members, which is fantastic. So this is kind of was the main, one of the main objectives was to come up with this list. This was, I think, was the ask. But then after we got through this list, this is technically step 4 in that, 9-step process, but it was the most intensive, this fourth one. We had talked about identifying key stakeholders in the communities that will be affected, that we could start to perhaps fold in. We talked about identifying key metrics that the village can track to assess progress towards those goals. Set a schedule for achieving those goals. Build a plan working backwards from the schedule, specifying certain tactics with timelines, and then use metrics to measure progress. I guess the question that I want to have about this is just a part of this process I was never really quite totally 100%, have my brain around, and I kind of wanted us all to kind of talk about those steps. Are those the next steps we really think we should take? Is this where we pass it off to, like you said, to answer your specific question, how many of these are we going to filter up? Is this the point where BDC considers our work to have been completed, and we can sort of pass this on to the village board, share it with the group, and then eventually have it? Because I think this eventually will land with the administration fundamentally, with staff, I think, Jay and Josh's group. That's my thought, but I'm kind of open to hear conversations of, now that we've gotten this, and I think we feel very good about this, right? This is solid, good, whatever, deliverable. What do we think the next thing to do is? And I just kind of would like to open up and listen to people's opinions on it.
Yeah, at what point does the village board weigh in on the overall approach? Right now, we don't necessarily have a go forward proposal, but what point do we get feedback?
I mean, that's what I was gonna say, because I don't think you would want to move on to the next steps, because what if you were like, hey, we did all this, here you go, and they look at it and they're like, no, we don't agree with this at all. Like, so I feel like this would be a good time not to pass it off and be like, we're done, but to say, this is what we came up with, what's your feedback, what do you think?
Okay. I like that. So almost we present this to the board.
Yeah.
As a sort of in progress. This is where we're at so far. We're headed to Chicago. Are we in the right direction, or are we way off track?
And what do the next steps look like? Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is what's important to the BDC. Next step should be, if you're aligned, we actually put people in spots and recommendations, and then come back with the full package.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What do you have in your mind in that? And so, it's for you, what's the next step, do you think?
If we
everyone
get,
signed- board for
everyone signed off. It'd be, all right, what parties could take this, each individual area, and kind of run forward in terms of saying, we think this is important. And then it depends. I mean, how many different departments, like infrastructure, how many different people do we have to get on board to say, like, we see this as being a need, the village board sees this as being a need. How do we create action? I guess is my, like, we can put together what's important, what areas probably need to head it or work on it. But at that point, it's not probably something where we say, public works, hey, improve infrastructure, right? I mean, it doesn't work that way, right? So, yeah, so I'm curious to know, like, just feedback, what everyone else thinks,
Yeah.
you know?
And Aaron, what do you think? What are your thoughts as far as next steps? Again, I really think unless someone has a real big reservation, I think presenting to the board at this point and just letting them know, I think is a very obvious thing we should do.
Yeah.
Unless you think that we shouldn't. So speak to that if you have an issue with it, but if we agree with it, that's a good idea. What do you think sort of next steps?
I think we're at a point where this gets presented to the board as to, here's the process we took, explain the journey of how you got here.
Yeah.
Here is what the BDC has ranked as the top priorities in their opinion for the village to meet the needs as defined in an economic strategy or development strategy. Because if they come back and they're like, well, we don't agree with this one, we don't agree with this, we're not gonna go back and re-vote and try to re-rank stuff.
No.
No.
It's still, this is our recommendation, whether they take the recommendation or not is up to the board. I think that presentation is the next thing. And then from there, it could be, what would the board like to see the BDC do with this information to help them start to action it? Is this really what our role was to say, here are the recommendations as you're going forward, like comprehensive plan? Is that a village board, Jay, Josh, executive staff type motion, right? Should the BDC be involved in that?
Right.
Facade program is beautification, right? So we do own pieces of this.
I was gonna say, like, BDC is probably only a fraction of what's.
Right, absolutely. And so then I think it's at that handoff, it's here are the pieces we see that we can help drive forward and to help this. And potentially here are the other groups we think would help you in these other areas, should you choose to action them. And then we move our action items, if there's alignment, are on those things that we do have influence or control on. That would just be my recommendation. I don't know, Josh,
Yeah,
you helped us define this process. So.
Yes.
So this started to fall in my head as something that could be an actual output of a strategic plan, like here's the book. So I think presenting to the board is a good idea. I wouldn't necessarily hand them this chart of 18 things, because I think they'll just talk and not argue, but debate on which things are most important. They'll spend a lot of time doing that and I think miss the big picture. That could happen, I think. So in my head, apologize if you can't see this, but I'm gonna get the whiteboard marker out if I may. As far as what you present to the village board, to me, it's the beginnings of an actual strategic plan where, what are there, 5 or 6 goals? Six
Goals,
right?
yeah. 6, isn't it?
So I'll try to do it on this side. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you have 6 slides or 6 pages and you have goal. And then you have strategies 1, 2, and 3 for each one based on your top priorities in this list. And you just assign 2 or 3 to each goal and work down the list until you get 2 or 3 for each goal. And then I think you might even take it one step further down the process where you have, kind of getting visual here, but you have a little box off to the side that says like key actors or key stakeholders for this goal and these strategies. For the comprehensive plan, it's going to be, Planning and Zoning Commission is going to be involved and some other agencies. And then you have a presentation more so that can be a book that the village board can look at and say, yes, except for these couple of things. And then you can have this list at the end that says, okay, what would you prefer instead of these couple of things? And then you kind of have a page of things to always look back to. Maybe every January, this commission looks and says, man, there's this one area of town where we think infrastructure should really be addressed. We make a recommendation that the board consider that during budget times, or that staff consider that in capital improvement planning during this budget season. And so then
I would make just a small tweak on that, in that while we started with 6 goals, at the point we are now in this journey, maybe there's an evaluation of, we have a goal or 2 that maybe there isn't a line item, or there's one line item, and we need to have a discussion of, based on priority and ranking, does this goal still apply?
Sure.
Or do we reduce and say, actually, we thought we had 6 goals at the beginning, we went through the whole process, and what we found was there are really 4 main goals we recommend you focus on, or 3, or 5, or all 6, whatever it is. And here is why we make that recommendation. Rather than trying to fit 2 to 3 on every goal, otherwise you end up with all 18, even if they're repetitive, you could be close to it. That would just be a piece of feedback, is that maybe some of the goals we looked at originally, we now look at and we're like, you know what? BDC through the process has found maybe this isn't as important of a goal as we thought.
Or you found something that you think is important, but you found we don't have the resources to make actionable strategies out of. So while it's great, it's not this commission's.
And we have 4 goals.
We have 4.
We have 4. We have 6 lenses, 4 goals. The goals are attract and retain business, diversify the local economy, enhance the community's image, provide additional resources. And then beautification, sustainability, land use, communication, village participation, and infrastructure were the lenses that we used.
Okay.
Now, that's semantics, it doesn't matter, but just to that point there,
So maybe you end up with 8 to 12 strategies total. And that's kind of what you take to the board and say, these are some actionable strategies that you with, the purse and, the actual staff that you can ask to do things. We've identified, these are the groups internally, externally that are going to be involved in this. And it's up to the board to make decisions on what they want to spend money on and what they want staff to devote time on.
So you're thinking about developing a PowerPoint of some kind, and then it becomes a book that you can leave behind then.
And then periodically, whether it's once a year, twice a year, 4 times a year, the BDC can look at this and say, all right, what's new that we can start taking some actions or make some specific recommendations to the board at this point based on our book we've got here. Because you don't just want to sit on the shelf.
Yeah. Right.
Liz, did you have a question?
No, I just had a comment. I think limiting the goals is, hello?
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Is important. I think what might be nice for the board, the trustees, is to show them, maybe do like a SWOT analysis on each one, as well as a SMART goal, just so that they can see how we're going to factor in metrics for this and what's going to be expected of this. And then relook at that, like maybe every 6 months as the community grows.
No, that's an interesting point, only because that was originally part of our idea. Is at least as we had, it was just the one meeting that I think it was you, me, and Josh there, and you, me. That's on the side. So I think originally we had talked about, but I always struggled with, is that really a BDC function, or is that a staff function? I mean, it's probably not a village board function. They got enough to deal with. I would think that's really, I don't, what is your thinking on that as far in terms of, now it seems like one of the things that we talked about.
We would do that, not them. We would include that in the report, in the PowerPoint.
Right, and so, right, and that's what I love the idea, and I think that was originally where we had talked about doing that. But there was, as this process developed, I've had sort of questions whether or not that was really a function of BDC. I was just kind of curious from staff, what our opinion, because I think Liz is right. I mean, I just read those things. I mean,
Yeah,
it's consistent.
Liz, I agree with you on the items that would fall under the purview of the BDC. That we would say, here's how we would measure that metric. Here's the SMART goal that we would set forth in that. But I think that things that would fall under, like number 2, continually expand infrastructure. I think that's actually Public Works Committee.
Certainly.
And they would set the KPI and the SMART goal for that. And then keep website current. That would be PR committee, and they can set what the KPIs are, how they measure success in that. Like almost help to identify, here are maybe it's not a whole board, but maybe it's the commissions committee of the board. And Liz, the recommendation is from here, our recommendation is that the owners of these items create a SMART goal KPI success to have it. But I don't know that we create it for all of them.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's right.
I was just gonna ask, does this commission want to be the body that not controls, but is the home for reporting metrics on all of these different things? I mean, we staff can certainly, put together a quick one-page report once a quarter or whatever, here's our progress on all these, but if you have essentially no control over infrastructure work and capital improvement spending,
Land use.
is it helpful for you to receive those, I mean, informationally, sure, but I don't know if it helps your cause at all as far as the things the BDC does.
I don't know that we own the reporting. I think the village board could say, we agree with the groups that would own these items, and we would ask during those groups' reports on once a quarter or whatever, that they report to the village board their progress in those areas.
Yeah, no, I think
Because to your point, like infrastructure, while it's important for local businesses on the impact, the BDC doesn't own any portion
do
of
we
that
have any real
or purview.
understanding?
Right.
I mean, way more than you think. I mean, that whole project out there is a big infrastructure project basically. So you can make recommendations to that effect. But like you said, it's not the BDC's own.
So it almost feels like we should do step 5 then. Right, that's the next thing, which is identify key stakeholders in the community that should be assigned to each, right, strategy. Seems like before we present to the board, because I think that should be I don't, obviously 2 hours, almost 2 hours in tonight's meeting. I don't know if it makes sense to do it tonight. We still got some work to do, but we can definitely do it next meeting. And then, I don't know, that's what I'm hearing. And then we present to the board. Does that sound? And then the identify key metrics the village can track, schedule for achieving those goals should be done by those key stakeholders.
And I think that's that presentation.
And that's exactly.
Is part of exactly what Josh was showing out there. The key stakeholder is what our recommendation of who that is.
Yes.
But then they take it from there.
Yes.
And they do the points 8 and 9 and we'll own some of that, I would imagine.
Yeah. What do you think?
I like it.
I like it too. I think that's solid. So, okay, fantastic. That is really good. So what we'll do then, we'll take a little bit of time next meeting. If you want to do one of your cool surveys, I don't know if that makes sense, because I know that
Another survey?
is do we get back together and just talk about?
This time we.
I say we talk, like get a list of here's the village committees and here's what we would.
Okay, I just know it was
And
efficient
then
to
also
do the
follow
other way.
advice of staff of, we would recommend these committees based on their charter to take these items.
Do we want to address all 18? Or do we, at this point, looking at this list, say the top 10, anything with a score of half or higher?
I don't think I'd do all 18. I think like top 10 or something like that.
Yeah,
You don't
10 or 12.
have to be too.
Yeah.
Liz,
Or
you-
even 6, and then as things change, you could change, the priorities of each one.
The challenge with that, I think you're right, because originally we were talking about 5, I thought that we had tossed that around. Part of that challenge is the facade programs is done, website current, it's kind of always in action. That maybe.
Some of these aren't done though. Remember, we were asked by the village board to relook at the facade, or beautification was asked to relook at the facade program. And every year,
It's always.
does the program need to be tweaked? Does the application or rule set? So I think the ones that are in flight or are consistent things that happen may always be there. There's not an end goal, but maybe it's a reporting API. To Liz's point, the SMART goals and what are the things that you specifically are working towards? Do we use a number of the result to cut something off? Do we?
I think right now 17.7 is the highest.
Sure.
So if we round up and just say 9 or 18, I would say maybe anything that scores a 9 or higher is probably.
Yeah.
I agree.
And that would be a lot. Or top, if you want to round up, it would be.
I would work that up. I would do. Because we're rounding up to get to the 9, and then when you round up to match it up into there.
Yeah.
And 10's a good start, but I mean, we obviously don't want to lose 11 to 18, right? That becomes part of our database that in the future is, if we feel like we've made progress, we'll go back. Because the other thing is by doing the stakeholders thing, no individual group's going to get 18, right? Each individual group is really only going to get a handful. So I think 10's a good start. I think
maybe there's a 5th slide or whatever.
Yes.
It may be where it's like, we do want to share with you the other things that were listed. They just weren't prioritized to the level these others were.
Yeah.
So we didn't assign what committees go to it or what the stakeholders are. We think these are important, but not as important as the others that we spent a little bit more time on. Because to your point, you don't want to lose.
Yeah, we don't want to
And,
lose.
and the village board may come back and say, take 2 of these off and 2 that were below.
Sure.
And,
They might all agree, like, no, this one is really important.
yeah,
Right.
Or there may be a reason why one of them needs to be prioritized.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Liz, Bill? Are you good with that?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not firing on all cylinders. Yep.
No worries.
Your vote counts. No matter
Always. All right, fantastic. I think, that came together really nicely. Okay, we've got a really good solid plan that we can go forward with. Great work, everyone. That was excellent. Okay, moving on to the,
We're at 7 or 8?
well, technically, we just got through 7, developing long strategy. So 8 was, I think I left that on from, I forgot to take that off. That was from last meeting.
Yeah.
So let's get.
And believe it or not, we already did that tonight.
Yeah, excellent. That was, when he texted me, he says, hey, are you interested? I'm like, yeah, that would be so cool.
That was amazing. Like, I got excited about their businesses from their excitement of their business.
Yeah.
And from all of your comments and questions, I was learning things that they should think about. Yeah,
I think
it was great.
I think long-term, if we can do this once a quarter, just with people with ideas, it's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, Hampshire's very own, which is now number 8. Technically, it was 9 before. I've got a meeting with Jeannie Mayer on Friday. She's going to interview me for the Hampshire very own beautification committee. She had apologized over, the holidays and stuff, which I said,
Isn't there?
I'm just happy you do
I
anything.
just got my water bill and there was a whole page dedicated to you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did not.
How much more Ryan could
All right, I'd be happy to have someone else get the interview. I used to with my wife. So she's like, she opens the water bill. She's like, you gotta be kidding me. If you want, you can come on at 9 in my place. She's gonna interview Bill because of beautification committee. And then she was gonna, that was her idea, but if we have, other activities can come up. So I would imagine that we will have and I just always wanna say thank you to Jeannie.
Yeah.
She does it pro bono, we don't have a budget, so we can't pay for it. She always does great work. And the articles, I think really do help accomplish the goal of communicating to our residents about the fact that we have a downtown. The fact that we do have, this is, no, do you know how this started? Was we did a survey and we asked people what they thought about our downtown. And one of the most common responses was, we have a downtown.
Yes.
Yes, no, literally like 20%, 15%.
Well, we had a lot of people move to Hampshire.
Yes.
And they haven't explored Hampshire.
Specifically on the east side of town, and they just go east.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's your town, I don't know, I don't know if there's a downtown.
Yeah.
But, so that's why we started the program, is we wanted to make sure that we could communicate to our residents, the companies, and get them to know the owners of the companies and the story and all that stuff. So, this would not exist or be as successful as it was without Jeannie, so I want to make sure that it's a good shot. Josh, sir, this is your moment.
Yeah, I was just looking at the zoning map, getting my,
Get ready? Yeah.
so coming to a village board meeting near you is a couple of annexation and developments. So I don't know if you've already known about this, if Jay's already told you, but Dan Light's property, Shire land and a lot of his other acres, a little over 300, I think. He's annexing those in. We're currently working on the annexation agreement, so he's looking for some M3 zoning and M2 zoning,
What is that?
which are industrial. So logistics up Shireland and north of there, logistics and maybe manufacturing companies. The 38 acres that is between Highway 20 and the unincorporated neighborhood, they're on Higgins Road. They're gonna look at M2 zoning, which is a little lighter industrial, and with even further restriction to not allow heavy truck traffic. Because that turn right there on 20 and Higgins is horrible, and we don't want a ton of trucks going by that neighborhood. They're not our neighborhood, but we like to be friendly neighbors. So they're gonna put a nice buffer zone in and look at more of a, maybe like a truck and fleet sales place or something like that. That's a little more commercial bent, but still industrial. So that's what they're doing. What else? Oh, the other one is residential. It's Prairie Ridge. The rest of the replatting is coming soon. They're gonna be submitting their preliminary plat and engineering for the board's consideration. The Rumpke 72 land south of Tuscany Woods, the library had a meeting and the library district voted to not move forward with that. So they had a meeting last night and decided 6-1 not to do it.
6-1.
Yeah, I don't know all the reasons why, but they came in and met with us and we had a good conversation. The executive director did, and they went to the meeting and the trustees felt otherwise. So
Are they still planning on moving?
they're still planning on moving. They're, as far as we know, they still want to be in Hampshire. But more to come, I guess.
That's shocking. I thought that was a perfect spot.
Let's see, what else?
Anything with the rest of that Tuscany phase?
No, they're actively marketing. They've met with a couple of fast food companies, just like we've been saying. They have a lot of incentive to get somebody in the ground there because every month, I guess, or maybe it's per week that goes on, they owe interest to Crown on recapture agreements. So they have a lot of incentive to get somebody in the ground and stop that interest from improving and make the payment. So they're working hard.
We'll make
They were
sure.
focused on the library, so now that that's gone, they'll be focused on retail up front. Midwest companies came in today, they're moving forward. That was the parcel over on there on Briar Hill South.
Yeah.
By the railroad tracks. They came in and their construction, sorting facility is under construction. It's underway. They've got concrete in the ground and they're moving forward with their first building. And then they came in today to talk about their second building and where they want to put it. So they've got a year left on their lease, I think, and their current temporary situation. And then they want to be up and running in Hampshire.
Okay. Any news on the other, I like 100 acres or something?
Yeah, he bought a lot of that acres between Island and the railroad tracks. They haven't talked about annexing that yet, but yeah, they still own. Let's see, the Park District is, I don't know if they're under contract, but they're at least planning on buying the commercial property that Crown owns on North State Street here. So Crown has talked about bringing in the final plat to get them all set up and ready to take the land. So that's the proposed spot for the new complex. That's about it, other than
What's the community feeling on that? I don't monitor Facebook that close. Do you think it has a chance of passing?
Heard a lot of people say it's good. I heard a lot of people just vehemently opposed against get their taxes being raised no matter
It's
what.
like $400 a year per house.
Depends on your home's value, but
Well, right, it's a percent. I was surprised. That's considerably more than the fire. If I remember correctly. I think the fire was like 120.
yeah, for a $300,000 home or something.
Okay.
So I think they plan on going in April, right?
It'll be, if it is on the ballot, they choose to put it on the ballot, it would be April.
But they're taking the land anyway, so.
Oh, they're planning on taking it either way.
Yeah, Crown asked this week if they could come in February for the final plat so that they could get that plan prepared for them. So
Gotcha.
sounds like they're moving forward. That's it, as far as I know. Hampshire Social open.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
It is
congrats
so.
to Hampshire Social.
Yeah.
I went on
So good.
opening day, it was
So good.
great. I think you said
I've
you were
been to that
there.
3 times already.
It was busy and there were people around tables like having coffee and sitting back
There was
in
nowhere to sit.
conversation.
I went at like 9:30.
Wow.
Nowhere to
Telling
sit.
me- I think Linda was telling me today
During
that
the week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when they opened, I went to.
What was it, Monday?
Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
Linda was telling me last night that she went by about 6:30 and there was a bunch of teenagers hanging out in there, like drinking coffee or whatever, just hanging out.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Alphonse continues to do really well. He's
There was good pizza.
struggling to keep his.
That's really
I
good.
did the deep dish today. It was one of the best pizzas I've had, you know, and I love pizza. It was one of the best pizzas I've had in a long time. Oh, yeah, it was very good.
I do appreciate our community is given a little grace to knowing that they're a new business. and
Yes.
They will have some speed bumps, but at least the conversation I've seen on Facebook has been the community giving some grace.
Yeah.
Hey, just give them a chance, they'll get through.
Oh, yeah.
And/or this is stellar pizza. so
Right.
Congrats to that business.
Right. Also, they're the 4th place in our town that offers pizza. And the amount of excitement around one more, hats up, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like, that's amazing.
No.
So,
So,
cool.
there it is.
Okay, I can think at this point, there's nothing else to share. Does anyone have anything they want to say before we entertain a motion to adjourn? Liz, Bill, I know you've been chomping at the bit to say as much as possible.
Yeah,
No, I have nothing else. Thanks.
I hope your son feels better, Liz. I hope you feel better, Bill. If we don't have
Yeah.
anything else,
Thank you.
we'll end a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor of adjourning, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
I.
Opposed, say nay. Looks like the ayes have it. Motion, meeting adjourned. Great meeting, everybody.